Hey guys, and welcome back to Generation Y. About to do a long form interview with a couple of Israeli lads. One is called The Mossad, the other Silver 42, and they run the channel The Juminati. The reason I wanted to do it is because I just feel like the point of this channel is to ask questions of people that are around and experiencing something now. Um, and that's what I want to do. Like I'm tired of hearing all these sort of propaganda almost. You only ever really hear negative things. We know how biased our media can be, and I feel like a lot of things that is said, it's just because they have a goal to achieve, and they will say whatever they need to say to achieve that goal. And we should all know that because we've seen it, perhaps with some people that we support, or perhaps some politics that we have supported or been against. And we've seen, the massive amount of lies. So I wanted to see at least one side of the truth, because if I don't speak to anyone, I'm really going to have no idea of what's going on. And I don't want to go by what was written, 200 years ago or 150 years ago. We see how many lies get told now, just day to day. I cannot imagine, trying to get back to an original thought for something that was 150 years ago. So take it as you want. Obviously, everyone's entitled to their own opinion and their own biases. But I just thought, speak to someone, speak to people. So, yeah. The sound is not great. Streamlabs is very difficult to adjust sounds, especially on international streams. But yeah, just bear with it. And if you're not a huge fan of really long format things, uh, at least try and view it till the third or fourth episode, because I would say that's where it starts to get really informative and very interesting. But yeah, so yeah, enjoy. So
Um,
yeah, I mean, just talk
y-
to me
y-
about being a Zionist.
yeah, so I think, but one of the problems is that Zionism means different things to different people, and we don't own the word.
Mm-hmm.
But to us in Israel, it kind of means just nationalism, patriotism. Are you are you with us or against us? Basically.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Zionism was a Christian movement in England, and the largest Zionist organization in the world is Christian. So it probably means something different to them, right? So I think that's a lot. There's a lot of confusion. Also within Zionism is not proper ideology, so it's not like socialism or something like that. It just
Yeah.
means we want to go home.
Yeah.
It's not like a. It's so we want to go home and be socialist, or we want to go home and be capitalist, or we want to go home and be whatever. That's an open question, and
Yeah.
we're still arguing about it, right? We have elections, and
Yeah.
you know, I guess for eternity we'll be arguing.
I should imagine. Yeah, I mean, from what I understand, well, I don't know how much you know about it, but I had read that a lot of Jews were in the sort of Russian and Austro-Hungarian area,
Mm.
and then
Yeah.
when things started to sour in Russia, they started to move to the UK, mainly England, obviously. And then there was a guy in England. I can't remember whether it was Joseph Chamberlain or another guy, but obviously they were trying to sort out a place for the Jews to go home. And obviously
Mm.
there was, I think they originally people were talking about Cyprus temporarily before they went back to Israel. And then Uganda, I've heard that they were talking about Uganda as a stopgap until they got back to Israel.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Well, they were talking about Uganda as a permanent location.
oh, was that
Um,
permanent?
yeah, they were talking about all sorts of things. The thing is that in order to, if you want to unite the people,
Hmm.
the place that means, means something to all of them is Jerusalem,
Mm-hmm.
Zion. It's London has multiple names, right? And
Mm-hmm.
and so does Jerusalem. One of them is Zion, and that's where the word comes from because it's more catchy than Jerusalemism.
Yeah. So, talk to me about in Israel, because, like I say, one of my friends who was Israeli, he seemed, very similar to just a well-behaved British lad. at the time we were both very early 20s.
I don't know
And
if we're that well behaved.
say again.
I don't know if we're that well behaved, but I'm glad to hear he was well behaved.
Yeah, he was a good guy, very good guy. But yeah, so I think a lot of people that have never visited Israel kind of have this notion that it's this I don't know how to describe it, sort of fundamentalist, um, extremely religious, war torn, not war torn, but like constantly under attack country, and nobody ever lives normal lives because there's always something to do with religion or politics or but obviously he showed me that you can just live a perfectly normal, almost boring life in Israel. Would you?
Totally, and I think and I think it's also a problem. Some of the population doesn't really feel the conflicts that we have as much as others.
Mhm,
So there's a divide in Israel between. It's not very clear divide, but it's similar to what you have in many countries where the metropolitan Tel Aviv is not so concerned about the security, and they have, in my opinion, unrealistic ideas about who they're dealing with.
mhm,
While people who live more in near the border,
mhm.
they know what it's like, because sometimes they get shot at to get to be
Jesus,
reminded, you know. So
that's crazy.
it depends where, so for some people it's just a reality, it's just life, and every now and then the rockets falling, or someone gets through the border, or all sorts of things like that. Yeah, we just had
Yes.
a few cases in Israel in the last week where I can't remember how many people were killed. There was
Wow.
five in one of them, two in another, two in the other, something like that. Just this week.
Yeah,
Is a bad week because it's Ramadan. For some reason, when the Muslims celebrate,
they get trigger
this
happy.
happens. Yes,
Yeah.
but it's again. I always want to say that it's not all Muslims, and it's not all of them, and a lot of them are very good, abiding, law-abiding people. So it's a section of the Muslim population.
Yeah. 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 I think the problem with anything in life is people, um, just blanketly saying that all people, all people in one group are a certain way.
Yeah, not all, not
And
all, not all.
yeah, exactly. Jeez, we get tired of it, don't we? Having to
Yeah,
say that. But
but yeah, but I'm not tired of saying it, because because I know people who are Muslim who work in Israel, and they're very good citizens, by all measures. So and
okay.
they face sometimes when things heat up like this, then they face looks, and you know
Yeah.
it doesn't feel good for them to walk around in the mall, and people know that they're Arab.
Could you walk around in their malls? Sorry, in a Palestinian mall.
Well, so this gets a bit technical. So there's two types of Arabs in terms of politics. There are two types of Arabs,
Mm-hmm.
not type of people. They're the same people, but politically,
Mm-hmm.
but one group are Israeli citizens. So yes, I can go to their towns,
Okay.
almost all of them. No problem. It depends on the situation, and it used to be better. It's worse now. But yeah, normally yes, you go to their towns, you go to their restaurants. They come to our towns. They do the shopping. They go into the cafes, and so most people try to maintain a normal life. They have jobs. They have kids. They have mortgages to
Yeah.
pay. And so on. They're not really invested so much in a conflict. But
Yeah.
then there's another population that is the what people like to call the Palestinians, which are the Arabs that ended up under Jordanian rule in the 40s, after
Mm-hmm.
Second World War. And in 67, Israel took over this area,
Mm-hmm.
and they're not citizens. And there's an arrangement called the Palestinian Authority. It's some kind of autonomy. Without getting too technical, they're not citizens of Israel, and they're less happy. They are less happy, basically.
Right.
So you got a problem with this population more than the Israeli Arabs. But even those Israeli Arabs, within them, there are people who are still not happy.
Okay.
Some of them are very unhappy, in fact. So
And what's the sort of the percentage difference between how many Palestinians are not happy and how many Arabs that you have in Israel that are completely passive and happy to live with Jews?
it's hard
Roughly.
to know, and it changes. So I would say
Okay.
that within Israel, the Arab residents of Israel or the citizens of Israel, probably 50-50, maybe more towards yes, we're happy than no, we're not happy.
Hmm.
Especially when people get a bit older and they have children, they get a bit more realistic and less idealistic. And
Yeah.
you do get. I mean, there's lots of clips on YouTube where they interview an Arab Muslim literally standing next to a mosque, and they're saying to him, "Would you like to be part of the Palestinian state?" He said, "Me? No, no, I'm an Israeli citizen."
Wow.
you know,
So you never see?
yeah,
I've never seen that.
yeah, you can see them. I mean, I'm not saying
Yeah.
that they're the
It's
majority,
common. Yeah. Yeah.
but also there's a bit of a price to pay socially if you are too much pro-Israel,
I'm
because
sure.
you know. Oh, there we go. Silver has joined.
Winston stopped writing, partly because he was suffering from cramp. He did not know what had made him pour out this stream of rubbish